Hello and welcome back. This is KrazyBatLady. Today I wanted to try something a little different. I wanted to show all of my favorite weapons in Elden Ring. Keep in mind that I'm a sorcery user, so I spec all my points into int and strength, and I like a combination of the two, and I found some really fun weapons along the way. And I just kind of wanted to share them in a video. I'll also show where to get all of said weapons as well. And starting off with this weapon that I'm using right here, it's called the Sacred Relic Sword. This weapon not only looks really neat, but packs a hell of a punch. It sends golden waves out and just pretty much destroys everything that you see. It has C scaling and faith, and I literally only have enough faith to wield this thing. Like, I just got enough faith so I could do it. And then I'm wearing a talisman for the other 5. And it still hits like a dump truck. And not just like these small fodder enemies too. I mean, that's a lot of damage right there, but I can also take on like a little tankier of enemies too. I don't know if I would go bossing with it just yet, but this thing hits so hard. I love it. And it just has such good crowd control. I can't think of another weapon that has as good of crowd control as this one. So definite recommend, especially if you're running a faith build. This thing probably gets nutty at high faith. So how you get this is you have to beat the final boss of the game and then talk to the finger reader here and buy it. Next up is the Rotten Crystal Sword. I don't really hear anyone talking about this weapon. I really like it personally. It's super fast, it applies Scarlet Rot, and it's got a really neat Ash of War built into it that I like. It's just a generally fun weapon to use. It has C scaling in Strength, and D and D in Dex and Int. Which isn't terrible. It's not like the craziest stats you've ever seen, but it is good. It works just fine. Don't let the numbers fool you. So you can see this thing just goes mad. It attacks so fast. But here's what I like. I call it the blender. Just kind of turning enemies into salsa. Just dancing around, slashing everything. It's a lot of fun. Oh, tried to dance and slash me. That's too bad. I want to show off the Scarlet Rot, but everything is dying too quick. So I wish I had a boss to show that off on, but I do not currently. Hopefully in the future I will. So if you want to know where to find this, you're going to have to go up to the Relic tree at the top of the map here, so you will have to progress quite a bit right here in the inner wall. And once you're here, head down this hallway, and to your left, there's going to be a couple of crystal bastards, and just dispose of them however you want, or you can just run past them if you desire. I decided to kill them. You also get an extra item for killing them, I believe, and the sword is going to be right in that chest. So moving on to number 3, this weapon. Oh my god, this weapon is so good. The Helphen's Steeple. You basically, like, infuse your weapon with ghost flames, which is cold and magic. It has B scaling on intelligence, C strength, and E dex, which isn't great, but this thing just not only looks amazing, but it hits so hard. I mean, just look at it. It's beautiful. Like, I maxed this thing out right when I got it. And it just has a lot of poise break as well, which is super nice. You get 80 frost buildup and 50 extra magic damage while you use Ash of War on it. If you want to know where to find this, there is a little canoe boss, one of those little like ghost canoe guys, right over here in the mountaintop of the giants. You will need the secret Relic tree medallion to get up here, but you're gonna have to get that eventually anyways. And he shouldn't be too hard for you to beat. Next up is a more common one that you've probably heard of, is a Sword of St Trina. This one is the Sleep Sword, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I love the purple. I just love it so much. I don't know why, but it's exactly that. It's a sleep sword. That's what it's good at, is putting things to sleep. You got D in pretty much everything except Dex and sleep buildup. Like, the numbers here are not impressive, but what is impressive is using the Ash of War one time will put this big bastard to rest. And then you can go and stab him in the face with your weapon of choice. And just like that, because I stabbed him with the Sword of St Trina, he's asleep again. I think I'm gonna punch him in the face. Okay, that didn't do a lot of damage, but like, you get the point here. I'll slash him a couple more times, and he's just gonna go right back to sleep. It's actually really insane. And this thing's a ton of fun to use. If you want to know where to get this, it's really simple. Head over to Rot View Balcony in Caelid, and you're just gonna like run off of this porch here and into a hole. You will need a stone key, so keep that in mind. And just head on down there. Next up is the Death's Poker. It kind of looks like a sheep herder or something. I'm not really sure. This thing, I don't know, it's just some kind of hook or crook. It's got some pretty decent scaling. C in strength, D in intelligence, and C in dex. So not necessarily the best int weapon, but still very good. And it has 65 frost buildup, which is incredibly nice. But this is what makes it nice. If you use the Ash of War and then hit it, it'll create flames, but if you hit it with a charged attack, heavy attack, it'll create a big explosion, which is miles better than the flames. It just fucks up everything in the general area, and I love it so much. If you want to know how to get this, it's right here at the bottom of Caelid. From this site of grace, just head right over there. It has to be at nighttime, and there is going to be a bastard of a boss to beat. I don't know, depending on how it goes. The next one is the Scepter of All Knowing. Now this one isn't as much of an attack weapon as it is a support weapon. Now I know there are some support weapons. This is a magic support weapon, which is why I like to use it. It has pretty decent scaling with C in intelligence and dex, but it's not like the hardest hitter in the world. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can bust some skulls with this, but like mostly what you're going to be using it for is the buff, in which I will show exactly what is. So you cast your Ash of War, and everything with the red mark has their magic and holy resistance reduced by 10%. Unfortunately, that's including yourself. Now here's me hitting this enemy with just a light sorcery without the buff, or debuff rather. And here's me hitting an enemy with the debuff. Well, that is a big difference. That is a huge difference. If you want to know where to get this one, you can't really miss it. You have to progress way far into the game, but it's going to be right here. I don't want to like spoil anything, so I won't go into that anymore. Next up is the Wing of Astel. This thing is beautiful. It looks like a fairy wing, but it's very, very deadly. I think this might be my new favorite weapon. Well, one of them. I mean, this list is about my favorite weapons. It's got great scaling, it's got good damage, and it has really, really fun attacks. First of all, it attacks super quick, which I like, and your heavy attack, or sorry, the Ash of War creates an explosion, and the heavy attack shoots out rays of magic, and this costs no FP at all. You can spam this all day. Well, the built-in Ash of War actually doesn't take that much FP either. So you can explode and shoot magic ray thingamabobs at everything, and it's just amazing. Especially if you get a second one and can dual wield this, it just gets that much better. So I can't wait for In My New Game Plus to get another one. Where you're gonna get this is down here in Noctella City, and this is going to be part of the Ronnie quest. I will link a I'll put a link in the description to my guide on Ronnie so you can follow that. But anyhow, climb up this ladder and head on down this hallway. There's actually going to be a couple weapons here that you'll need to progress in Ronnie's quest to get, so I'll definitely make sure to put that in the description. Run past these ants and keep on going down this hall. These guys probably won't cause you any trouble, but, you know, might as well kill them. Now, hug the right and make your way up. There is going to be a guy hanging from the ceiling shooting meteors at you, so be careful. But the weapon's going to be right here in this box. Next up is a little obscure one. It's called the Clayman's Harpoon. This one has really high range, being that it's a spear and you can equip any Ash of War on it. It's also inch scaling, which is pretty rare. But this makes it so much better. If you infuse it with magic and other buffs, like, okay, you could say buffing any weapon would make them good, but this one just feels special. It feels so good to use. Because I've been wanting a good spear, and this is so far my favorite spear that I have the right stats for. Just add a ton of magic damage to it, buff it with a jellyfish shield, and have a good time. Now this one you're going to have to farm from enemies. I don't know the name of the enemies, but they're these weird looking creatures that are carrying them around. You would think just grabbing one out of their hand would work, but you have to sadly kill a bunch of them as it's a really rare drop. At least it was for me. So put on like your silver scarab, whatever other things you have to increase your drop chance, and kill these guys. They are in a couple different spots down here. Again, you will have to progress in the Ronnie quest to get here. Now, next up is the Fallingstar Beast Jaw. This thing is just ridiculous. I cannot believe how strong this thing is. It looks like a big, like, insect claw on a piece of fur on a stick. I don't know how to explain that, but it's got C scaling and strength and dex, and then D in intelligence, and pretty high base damage as it's a colossal weapon. But it has a built-in mechanic, Ash of War, that you can just spam over and over and over again. That's the same Clean Rot Knight from a minute ago. Not so strong now, are ya? So if you want to know where to get this thing, it is going to drop from a boss. It's going to be up here in this crater at the top of the map. There is a ladder you can climb up technically, but like, why would you do that? So you jump up here, and the boss is going to be in the crater. Do keep in mind he's a bit of a dick, so like, you know, be prepared. But it's totally worth it. Okay, now I know a lot of people hate Moonveil, but it's undeniable how strong this thing is. And to be fair, I don't play PvP, so I just like to use it on bosses, enemies, etc., etc. And I've got a level 9. It's got really good scaling, B and C dex, E strength, and it has blood loss buildup, of course. But the special thing about it, of course, is its Ash of War. Do you still call it an Ash of War if it's built in? Because that's what I've been calling it the whole time. Just one-shotting all of them. Don't even give them enough time to get a bleed proc. Of course, these are really weak enemies. But I don't know, something about this weapon it just feels cool, you know? really satisfying to use. If you want to know where to get this, it's going to be in the Gale Tunnel in between Limgrave and Caelid. It's a really, really easy tunnel. I don't feel like I need to explain it. You just kind of run through it and beat the boss. It's incredibly easy. The next one up, with no surprise to anyone, is going to be the Moonlit Greatsword. This is probably my all-time favorite weapon, and it's kind of a throwback as well. You have it in both hands, and you can charge it up, and it gets this beautiful frosty hue to it. It's got great scaling for intelligence, probably one of the best weapons for a battle mage. Really high damage. It's not even that slow, which is nice, and it has a lot of frost buildup, especially when you cast its ability. And not only when you cast its ability you get a buff, but you can also shoot rays out of it. Like ice waves, or whatever you want to call them. And you can aim them, but it's a little difficult to aim. You can go down, up. Definitely better used against enemies than the air. And this is pretty much the final reward from the Ranni quest. So definitely worth doing that if you want any of the weapons in this video, as the next one is going to require that as well. But this just has really good damage, close up and ranged. It pretty much does it all. So this will remain my favorite for a long time. Now, last but not least is the Royal Greatsword. This thing is a blast to use, and I mean that with all pun intended. The ice explosion is so much fun to use, and it does a just asinine amount of damage. I only have it at level 9 currently. C scaling, D index, so pretty decent for what I'm running. So if you're like me and you have strength and int, this is a really nice weapon to run. It is a bit slow, but it makes up for it with this big lunging explosion. And you can just pretty much fuck up anything. Bosses, enemies, whatever. And this one also is going to come at the end of the Ranni quest. I don't know, it's just so satisfying. I had to show a couple clips of that. So you're going to want to head here towards the end of her quest. I don't want to go into like spoilers or anything, but you will have to fight Blade and get this weapon and armor set as well from him. He is kind of a prick to fight, so keep that in mind. Be prepared. And yeah, these are my favorite weapons currently in the game. As far as intelligence and strength builds go, I'm having a ton of fun with all of these. I hope that you found this interesting or helpful. Please, if you'd like, subscribe, and have yourself a wonderful day. Bye!